Well, I probably did the first kitchen in 2000 or so, 2001. And now we do 40, 50 kitchens a year. I don't do all the installs, but I do my fair share. This is all scribing now. And scribing is something that it's really 99% of what you do when you're installing cabinets. That's just like all the difficult work is the scribing. First thing I'm gonna do is set up my workstation out here. Look at that. I haven't named it. Now I don't have to work on the ground, which is a relief. Piece here, piece there, and a piece here, just 3 pieces. So I'm measuring for the faces that I'm gonna put on these. 51 and 6. As you can see right now, the top of this face is higher than my base. So we make these wider than they need to be because your floors aren't necessarily going to be level. They might be bumpy up and down. You might have big tiles that are all crooked or something. And so you need to trace whatever your floor is doing onto this piece of wood and cut that off. So that way this fits exactly to the flooring. So now I'm going to make a very special little piece of wood. So this has a little notch on the top of it, and the height of that notch is 1/8 of an inch. The height of the block isn't specific, it's just a block that has a notch on the top of it like that. And that's what I'm going to use to set all my faces so that I can trace the floor onto them. One thing that I like to do, rather than having the top of this cover coming straight flush to the top of the base, I like to set it down 1/8 of an inch. And that's where this notch comes in. So there's going to be a little reveal between the top of our cover and the bottom of our cabinet. And for this situation, underneath the cabinets, you're really not going to see this very much. But when you come around to an end where the toe kick is going to be finished flush with the side of the cabinet, having that 1/8 inch reveal makes everything come out really nicely. If you try to butt the pieces right up against each other, it never quite works out just right. So creating that reveal really helps you in the long run. So I take my special little block and I clamp my base, my face I should say, so that it's level with the bottom of that notch. What that means right now is the top of this face is perfectly level or parallel to the top of my base. It doesn't have anything to do with how it's going to sit on the floor. The floor can be totally crooked, and I know that this is level and exactly this high above my base. I use the same block and I trace a line on the face, but I trace it on the high side of the block. So that way I'm cutting 1/8 of an inch extra off of this toe kick face. I just do it by sliding this block along the floor and dragging the tip of a knife to make a mark. You could do it with a pencil. The knife edge is a little more exact, but a pencil can work fine. It doesn't show up on the darker wood, so I just usually default to using a knife. So now that line that I've traced on here is going to run exactly in tandem with whatever the floor is doing. So go ahead and do this on the other 2 pieces. Of course, the risk here is that you drag your knife all across the front of your nice finished piece of wood and ruin it. So when I can, I'm going to bevel the blade so that I'm cutting this piece at an angle, because that'll make it easier to refine this edge by hand. Because if it's crooked, I can't really make a very crooked line with a table saw very well. Now, since I cut it at a bevel, I'm only shaving off the very corner. If I had to shave off the whole edge, it would be a lot more work. And the smaller the plane is, and the more at an angle you put it, the more of a curve you can plane. So it's always going to be a compromise of getting a nice even line, and sometimes your floor can be really wacky and You know, sometimes you try and get it exact, but sometimes a nice even line looks better than exactly following the floor. So let's go take a look. I'm about 1/8 inch low from the top of my kick, and it looks good on the floor. Even this, I mean, you can see how much variation there is, and it only takes a couple seconds to clean off that last 1/8 inch. They all look good as far as I can see. They all look like they're the right height relative to my base. I have that reveal built into it now. And so I'm gonna just attach these, and then we can start setting cabinets, I think. There we go. Progress. Maybe I got it first try. There we go. Good. I have a seam between this top and this top, so that has to look really good. Maybe 80 9/16. So that's my front edge. And this end is going to be seen up against the cabinet, so I don't want to touch this, because that's nice and straight already. And the wall's over here, so I'm going to cut this edge 80 9/16. That fits in pretty good side to side. I still have to fit the bench to this back wall. And right now I have a inch and a 1/16 or so overhang, and we're shooting for about a 1/2 inch there, so I need to take about a 1/2 inch off the back of that. Okay, one at a time. This one, I have to do a little bit of planning for. I'm going to use a piece of 3/4 inch material. So I want to go exactly 3/4 from this edge. I don't want to make any cuts on this seam because they're already like machined all square and nice at the shop. So all my work I want to do on this end of fitting this piece, well, it'll make sense in a second here after I set it up. If I put this top here and line this end up with the marks that I made before, So that means that right now I'm exactly 3/4 of an inch too far over this way. And so if I use my spacer on this wall, which is 3/4 of an inch, and make a line, after I cut away this wood, it should fit right into place. And we'll also trace the contour of the wall because the wall's bowed in a little bit. So I want to finish with a 1/2 inch overhang. Right now, just over 3/4, so I need a 1/4 inch. So just over a 1/4 inch to scribe the back. Yeah, sometimes you just get it first try. It's hard to see after the fact, but there were some pretty good curves in the walls, so those seams came out really good. And then this joint here, between the two bench tops, you have the choice of whether to make something try and be absolutely seamless, or to just kind of acknowledge the fact that there's going to be a joint there. There's going to be two separate pieces of bench tops sitting next to each other. For a bench like this, you know, I'm not worried about food and grease and stuff getting down in this seam. And it feels really nice the way it is right now. If you're trying to get that really seamless look, it's a lot more involved with laminate and really hard to get absolutely perfect. So having just kind of a nice generous line there, I think, is the nicest finished edge. Benches are in. That went faster than I was expecting.